Every church that I have ever known has had more vision than budget, right? More opportunity than margin, more ideas than income, and more dreams than dollars. I bet this is true of you and your leadership right now. For pastors, that tension can be very exhausting because it's not just about money, it's about the mission, right? You can see what could be. You can picture the outreach, the new staff positions, the new space, the next ministry opportunity, but the math just doesn't work. And really, that's the financial pressure most pastors are carrying kind of quietly at times. You pray for more giving, you stretch every line in the budget. Maybe you even kind of have faithed your way into a staff position. But eventually, right, the numbers, they just don't lie. And that's the point where most pastors tend to freeze. Because creating margin means, cutting something or sometimes cutting someone. And nobody got into ministry to cut people or programs, right? We got into ministry to build, to grow, to add, to multiply. So here's kind of the question, right? What do you do when the mission feels bigger than the budget? You have to create financial margin without losing the mission. And that begins with reframing what pruning really is. Of course, you can grow revenue, and I work with lots of churches on that, but there's another side of the budget. There's an expense side. And pruning really is a huge part of creating financial margin for an established church. So here's the reality. We just need to own this, right? Pruning isn't punishment. It's really about preparation. Every healthy growing church must occasionally trim to make room for new fruit. Think of it like actual pruning in a kind of farm scenario, or I'm terrible at this, but maybe with a rose bush, right? The best way to grow the fruit or grow the blooms from the rose bush isn't just to let it continue to grow out of control, right? It's to prune it carefully, but to cut it back as it needs to be. To do that well in your church, you really need clarity and you need some courage. So let me give you 4 ways that I have watched and I have helped coach healthy churches to create financial margin wisely. Okay, the first thing you got to do, you start with the mission as the filter. Okay, before you make any cuts at all, before you prune anything back, you have to ask this one question. Does this thing, whatever we're looking at, this program, this experience, this service, whatever it is, does this help us accomplish our mission now? Okay, not did it work at once, not does, because somebody does love it, not, does somebody love it, not would it hurt to lose it? Okay, that's all valid emotions, but that's not the logic that we got to create margin through. Is this thing helping the mission right now? If the answer is not really, it's probably time to release it, to let it go. Mission clarity, listen, it always comes before budget clarity. And if you are locked in on what you're trying to do, why you exist, what you're here to accomplish, everything that you do should align directly to that. And if it doesn't, that's a great place to consider creating some margin. All right, number 2, the second thing you need to do is you have to measure impact, not affection. I like that word here because that's kind of how we feel, right? Most ministries, they don't survive because they are always indefinitely fruitful, right? They survive because they're familiar. But when resources are tight, beloved, quote unquote, can't be our budget strategy. You can love people deeply and still lead with clarity, right? That's not kind of a cold-hearted leadership. That's actually just faithful stewardship. I suspect every one of us, and this was true during my 13 years of being a lead pastor, and then all the years I spent before in family ministry and as a deacon elder, and even now, right, coaching pastors and churches. I've just never met a church that didn't have something they were doing because they had an affection for it. And that's okay if you have extra resources, but if that's not where you're at, maybe it's time to make a cut, to do some pruning. Number 3, we have to reallocate. We don't want to just reduce, right? We need to think about how we reallocate. Like cutting for the sake of just cutting can actually cut momentum. Cutting for the sake of refocusing, though, that can fuel momentum. Right? Every dollar that you pull from a low impact area is a seed that you can plant into what's next or what the next harvest could be. So you're not like, don't think of it like you're ending something. Really, what you're doing is investing in something. You're investing forward, not ending something. I tell pastors all the time, creating margin isn't about saying no. It's about making space to say yes to what's next. So think of it as seed planting for the future. And then the last thing, number 4, and this is so hard for every organization. This is even a church problem. This is just an organizational people problem. Communication, right? We have to communicate with clarity, but also with compassion, right? People can handle change. They just don't handle confusion very well. So when you lead with clarity, mission clarity, right? And frame every decision around the mission, not money, people will get it. At least most people will get it. You're not saying, we can't afford this. That's the wrong conversation. You're saying we're choosing to steward better. We're choosing to seed our investments into things that are going to fuel the mission further, faster, over the future. We're choosing to prune back things that aren't working as well as they used to so we can make room for things that are working better today. That is a huge difference in thinking, okay? And really, this is what great leaders do. It builds trust. It doesn't add to the tension. Let me just give you a quick exercise that you can try if you want to test this out this week. I call it the margin map, okay? Just a couple of quick things. One, list every program and every staff role and all your recurring expenses, okay? Just take your P&L and list out all that stuff. You should have a P&L that has a lot of that listed out already for you. So just list it all out. And take some time to rank each one of those items from 1 to 5, okay? And we're going to do it on 2 scales. So the first 1 to 5 scale is mission alignment. Ask the question, right? Does this line item directly advance the mission? That's the first kind of column. The next column you're going to rank from 1 to 5 is missional impact. Is it actually producing fruit, right? So alignment, does this thing align with our mission? Is it connected directly to advancing the mission? And then the next question is it actually doing it? Is it? Because there's a lot of things that we may be doing, and it's easy for us to say, oh yeah, this connects directly to our mission. But then you look at the results, the fruit, and it's not really moving the mission forward. I mean, it's easy to see something that is completely misaligned from the mission. It's harder to prune something that, and we can argue anything is aligned to the mission. We're smart, right? We know how to articulate that. But even if it feels aligned, or even if we can make an argument that it's aligned, the real question, is it actually producing fruit for the mission? And anything that's kind of below a 3 in both probably needs to have a hard conversation. Anything below a 2, though, in either of them might need a transition plan. I mean, here's the reality, okay? You can't fund everything that's good. You're probably always going to have more ideas than budget. But what you can do is fund what is best for today. That's what leadership is. It's making hard calls that create the space for God's next move. So if you are sitting in front of your budget, feeling stuck, just try to remember this. Margin doesn't just happen, okay? It is created intentionally by leaders who care enough to clarify what matters most. Because, I mean, listen, it's never, if you never make space for what's next, you'll always be stuck in protecting what was. And here's the scary part, at least to me, what was today gets even further in the past tomorrow. And so the more we protect what was effective, the further we get away from the current reality. And really, that's just not stewardship. Actually, that's a terrible word. It's stagnation. You can lead through this stuff, though, with clarity and with confidence. And when you do, you'll not only kind of relieve a lot of this financial pressure, you might start releasing some new potential. Hey, if this conversation has kind of piqued your interest, or maybe it's helped you kind of rethink how you're doing it, I'd love for you to share it with another pastor, because I bet you know people who are staring at a spreadsheet right now and aren't sure what to do. And if you personally need some help creating more margin or using this margin map or walking your staff through strategic pruning, just connect with me. Go to gavinadams.com. You can email me, gavin@gavinadams.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you to help your church accomplish your mission and maximize your potential.